Camilla, a little burp of the 1950s. Sir Christopher Chope, the Tory MP, born just after the Second World War, has laid out the opinion, which has caused something of a row, that maybe Kemi Badenoch is too busy looking after her 3 young children to be an appropriate holder of the position of leader of His Majesty's opposition. He appeared on ITV's Meridian programme, and this is what he said.
I myself am supporting Robert Jenrick because I think he's brought more energy and commitment to the campaign, and being leader of the opposition is a really demanding job. And much as I like Kemi, I think she's preoccupied with her own children, quite understandably. But I think Robert's children are a bit older, and I think that it's important that whoever leads the opposition has got an immense amount of time and energy.
Sorry, Christopher, can I just clarify that? You're saying that a woman shouldn't be standing to be leader of a political party because she's got young kids?
I'm not saying that at all. I was one of Margaret Thatcher's strongest and staunchest supporters.
What's giving you that concern, though?
Well, what gives me the concern is because I understand from talking to colleagues that Kemi spends a lot of time with her family, which I don't resent at all. But the consequence of it is that you can't spend all your time with your family as at the same time being leader of the opposition. And you could argue that Margaret Thatcher's family suffered as a result of the commitment and dedication which she gave to leading our country.
It's perfectly fair. It's
a perfectly fair point, and it's where you're not involved. You haven't got a vote in this procedure. It's a perfectly fair point, and if you're looking forward to Kemi becoming Prime Minister, that's great. I don't resent you saying that.
Okay, just very quickly. What's your view on this?
Many women will be shocked by those comments. I'm really proud that we live in a country where we've had women who have become Prime Minister. We've got the first woman Chancellor at the moment. I think there should be no barrier to women standing in public life.
You're completely misrepresenting what I said. What I'm talking about is the time commitment involved in being leader of Her Majesty's or His Majesty's opposition.
It's all very well him saying he's been misrepresented. He's the one who said it. He said it very clearly that even though Robert Jenrick, who by the way has similarly aged children, so Robert Jenrick has got 3 daughters, they're aged 12, 10 and 8. Kemi Badenoch has got 2 daughters and a son, aged 12, 7 and 5. So barely any difference at all. And for some reason he thinks that Jenrick can cope with leadership and family life and Kemi Badenoch can't, even though, by the way, Robert Jenrick's wife is even more successful than him as a high-profile lawyer. So why is it that a woman who has children isn't able to lead the Conservatives because they are, quotes, preoccupied? Am I less good at this podcast, Kamal, because I am preoccupied with my 3 children who are considerably younger than yours, still in school? Yours are post-university age, almost. I mean, what on earth is this?
You're actually better in this pod because you have 3 young children.
Neither of us are better, but this is ludicrous.
You do remember the old Dennis Healey, the former Chancellor, Labour Chancellor's phrase, which Christopher Chope should have remembered halfway through that clip, where he should have just rewound, apologised for what he'd said, and tried to reframe his argument. Dennis Healey famously said, "If you're in a hole, stop digging." And he didn't do that. He pushed himself further. And also, his point about Margaret Thatcher is also wrong. Margaret Thatcher's children were much, much older by the time she got to number 10.
When she get to number 10, they were already 53, I think
they were already adults. And if you look at Tony Blair in 1997, he had young children. How was that portrayed? A breath of fresh air.
Yes.
Someone who is connected with real people, because real people are parents, and so people who are in positions of power who are also parents, that's actually a good thing. It's not better or worse, but it's a good thing if people have an understanding of the pressures under with different arrangements. I'm not saying somehow being a parent makes you better or worse at anything, but it certainly doesn't make... What I'm not saying is being a parent makes you better at anything, but it certainly doesn't make you worse at anything either.
Exactly, Kamal. And don't we like it when politicians are normal? We spoke to Kemi Badenoch in this studio about a month ago. We asked her about her family. She gave a completely human response to our questions. Hamish, and you've got 3 children, 2 girls and a boy.
Just tell us their ages.
They are nearly 5, nearly 8 and 11.
How lovely.
Oh, busy work. Busy working
So we've
motherhood
had,
going on
this week
over here.
has been first day of primary school and first day of secondary school for my girls.
Yes.
And my boy moving into year 3, which is quite sweet.
That is, so you've got a boy and a girl sandwich like I have?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Really great to hear just the kind of conversation you could imagine having across any kitchen table in the evening about your kids and primary school, etc., which I think is great. It is interesting. The one father, and fathers, as you say, are usually praised for their amazing ability to look after children and do a job. The one person who did get some criticism when he said he wanted to go home at 6 o'clock on a Friday to have time with his family was Sir Keir Starmer. I'm not quite sure, Camilla, why do you think that was when he said he got attacked for being sort of part-time dad? I think we still have a very big problem in this country that being a parent is part of the brilliant things we do as people, working, being parents, having our friendships, living a full life to the very best of our abilities. But it's still seen, parenting, even sometimes when men do it, as somehow a bit of a thing that's for someone else to do. Not important people don't parent.
No, that's right. Also, do we spend far too much time pretending at work that we don't have the preoccupations of home? I think we're all guilty of that, men and women, by the way, of sort of making out that we're leading these parallel lives where the personal never comes into work and the work shouldn't ever go into the personal. But of course, as we previously discussed with social media and our phone addiction, they cross over the whole time. I don't know why we're pretending to be these superheroes that are privately managing school plays, parents' evenings, GCSE options, and pretending that it doesn't actually have a positive impact on life. I remember thinking when I was a journalist, should I have my 3rd child? Would it all be too much? And actually having the children, particularly as a woman in this industry, the good thing about having children actually, particularly when it came to sitting next to people like Sir Christopher Chope actually at dinners, where you think to yourself, I don't think I've got much in common with this bloke. You can always speak about your kids, and it's a good leveller. I just think this sort of language and this sort of rhetoric, I mean, maybe he feels he's been misconstrued, maybe he's been clumsy in how he's expressed himself, but you cannot on one hand be asking for younger women and younger people in general who have a broad range of interests and lives outside of the Westminster bubble to come forward for public office and then criticise them for precisely what you are saying they need to have, the attributes they need to have to lead this country.
It's part of being in a modern workforce, in a modern world. To be parenting is part of that if you have children. And it should be the same for men as it is for women. It should be much more intertwined to our day-to-day life. What I love about working with you, Camilla, is that I do know you have lots of different responsibilities, and that means that your style of work can be different. It has to be flexible, and it's absolutely right that it's like that. I think it is a great shame. I think I sacrificed too much for my work because there was this idea that work and the rest of your life were completely different things. And the modern way of doing that, you actually put in more hours because of the flexible way you work, Camilla.
Yeah.
I'm astonished by the amount that parents do because they are always on and they are always part working.
It's the iniquity of saying that a mother's work suffers because of her children, but a father's doesn't. That doesn't make any sense to me. That Kemi Badenoch is disadvantaged by her 3 children and Robert Jenrick isn't. I mean, nobody's disadvantaged by their children, but that strikes me as a very skewed way of looking at parenting.
Whatever Sir Christopher Chope says about being misrepresented, he got his facts wrong about Robert Jenrick's children and Kemi Badenoch's children. They're the same age, and therefore the impact, one would assume and one would hope, would be similar.